I know that making pasta seems like it's just throwing some water on the stove, throwing the pasta in, walking away. But if you're going to spend a lot of time, especially when you're making a homemade sauce, and then you put a pasta that you didn't really take any care in making, it's kind of a shame because it's really the second part of a dish with the sauce and the pasta together. So there are a lot of particulars when you're making pasta, which essentially is something that's al dente, has some bite to it, has some nice starchiness to it at the end, but not too much. So I'm going to walk you guys through those steps. They're really simple, they're really small, they're not going to take any extra time when you're making pasta, but it is a little bit more than just putting the water on the stove and walking away. So when you're starting out making pasta, the first thing, you go and grab your pot. A common mistake is a lot of people make pasta in a pot that's probably about half this size. So I know this seems like a really large pot, but I would cook even a pound in this, which I'm going to do today. So I'm going to cook a pound of pasta in this really large pot. The thing is you want the pasta to have a lot of room to move around and to get boiling and to really cook. A lot of people think, well, if I put a really small pot, yes, it'll come to a boil quicker. That's true, but it's going to actually take your pasta, once you put it in, longer to cook. So I'm going to fill this up. So a really big pot, a lot of water. If you put too much water, it's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. So I'd rather you put more water than less, because if you don't put enough water, you're going to end up with, if you ever made pasta and the water turns almost murky brown and it has all this starch in it, it's because you didn't have enough water. So go ahead and get crazy with the water. Don't be scared of it. So you want to turn this on really high. You want it to come to a rolling boil. You want to see a lot of bubbles in there. If you just see bubbles at the bottom, I know it's tempting, but don't put your pasta in yet. It's not ready. You're really just going to have your pasta sit in the water longer. It's not going to get al dente. It's going to get soggy. So just really let it go. Let it get really rapid boil. Okay, while I'm waiting for my pot of water to boil here for my pasta, I'm going to put together a really quick, simple aglio olio, just olive oil and garlic sauce. If you have a really good quality pasta, you should be able to have a dish very simply dressed, very little sauce at all, and you should have taste. Pasta should taste like pasta, but it should still have taste on its own. It should be able to stand by itself. So I'm just going to throw together a little bit of garlic. Get some olive oil going in a pan. So I'm just putting a nice even layer of olive oil down there. Get my garlic ready. One more piece is plenty. I'm not even going to chop it up. I'm just going to leave it whole. So as soon as that oil gets hot, I'm going to throw these in. I'm actually going to put a couple hot chilies in there. These are fresh, because I like some spiciness. So you could see here in this pot, I just opened it up to check it. See how there's little bubbles, they're starting to form. Don't take this for boiling. This is not a rapid boil. This is not a boil at all, actually. So don't just see a couple little bubbles and think you're just going to take an easy route and throw the pasta in. You're just going to ruin it and you're going to have to do it all over again. So just be patient and wait till you get a lot of bubbles coming up there. So I'm going to put a little bit of garlic and some hot chilies in this. Olive oil. So there's not a lot of flavor here, just a little bit of garlic and pepper. So when I put pasta in here, I should really be able to taste, you know, the nice kind of nuttiness that pasta has. So I'm going to check my pasta water here. It sounds like it's coming up to a boil. Oh, there we go. You can see there. See those really fast-moving, rapid boiling bubbles? That's what you want. If it's anything less than that, you don't want to put your pasta in. Once it comes up to a boil is when you want to add your salt. You don't want to do it after the pasta's in or way before at the beginning when you just have the cold water. And this is really the one chance you have to flavor your pasta. So be sort of generous with the salt, because it's going to give your pasta a nice flavor. And if you notice, I'm not adding any olive oil. Please, please, please don't add oil to your pasta. A couple reasons. One, I know everybody wants to do it because they think that it's going to make their pasta not stick. But if you think about it, 2 stages from now, when you're putting your pasta with your sauce is not going to stick either of it. So I'm going to pour this pasta in here and immediately going to start stirring that. So when you first put the pasta in, it does need a little bit more of some attention to get it stirred up because it's sort of clumped together right now. So give it a nice stir, put the lid back on, and I'm going to check it back in a couple seconds and stir it again. When it's a little bit more pliable, it'll move around better for me. So I'm going to check this, and you could see, yep, it came right back up to a boil. So at this point, if you want to take your lid off to avoid the volcano of foam going all over your stove and a mess of cleanup, you could totally do that now. So you can see too that my water is still relatively clear. It's not all mucked up with a ton of starch because I have a lot of water in there and I have a big enough pot. So as you're going along here with your pasta, don't be afraid to take the lid off or try it whenever you want. I'd rather you taste it a whole bunch of times. The interior of that is way too stiff yet. I still am getting a real hard bite on that. It has some time to go still. So don't be scared to always taste your pasta. You're better off to taste it often so that you're not overcooking it, because you want to get it to that perfect al dente, which is that nice sort of chewy bite that you'll have with your pasta. But my kind of rule of thumb is if you take a bite like I just did and it sticks in your teeth completely, still a little bit too hard, you don't want it sticking in your teeth. So I'm going to taste this one more time. It feels like in the fork here, it feels done. After a while you kind of get a feel for it just in the fork before you taste it. So I'm going to take one of these. Ooh. It has a really nice bite, not sticking to my teeth. And I actually am going to take it off probably 1 minute before I think I actually should, because by the time I take my pasta water out, drain it, put it into my saucepan, it's still going to cook a couple minutes. So you actually want to take the pasta out at the moment right before you think you should. I'm going to scoop out some of this pasta water. This is really valuable stuff. I know it sounds crazy, but you can kind of see it has that nice starchy look to it. When you're making an oil-based sauce, even a red sauce, any type of sauce you're making, you always want to save 2 cups here, more or less is fine, of your pasta water. It contains those really good starches that the pasta was cooking in. So if you need to lengthen your sauce a little bit, you need to make the consistency a little better, you could do that. I'm going to drain the pasta. And I'm only going to let it sit there just for a second. I don't want to completely drain all the water off the noodles. I want it to sort of still contain some of that starchy water around it, because if it's too dry, it's going to just stick right when you put it in your pan. So I'm going to put this directly into my hot sauce pan here. You see how the pasta is still really loose? I didn't completely dry it out in the colander. So I have some nice flow. And I'm actually going to add a little bit of this pasta water here to make this a nice consistent, because I'm going to cook it for about 2 minutes on the stovetop here. Also, I did not rinse the pasta. When I took it over to the sink, there's no rinsing involved with pasta. If you rinse your pasta, you're taking away all those really nice starches, which is going to add to the consistency and the texture of your sauce. So please don't rinse the pasta. It's really, you're putting down the drain the most valuable part of the pasta. So now that it's cooked, and the sauce, which is just really olive oil and garlic, so I'm going to be able to taste my pasta. And my pasta has kind of come together in this sauce pot with a little bit of that hot pasta water. I'm pretty much ready to plate that. Turn my heat off. And that's it, a little fresh hot pepper in there. You can put a little grated cheese on top. And that's the best way to try a really good quality pasta. It's going to taste like pasta.